Good morning, family management class. Today we're going to be talking about family structure. Families in all the diverse patterns and sizes are the heart and soul of human society. From the beginning of humanity, people have grouped themselves into families to find emotional, physical, and social support. Families are the basic, fundamental structure of individual growth and development. Families are the place where we learn how to survive and thrive in our world. There are a wide range of family structures. We're going to take a look at 8 of the most common structures of types of families. These types of families are nuclear, single parent, blended, extended, adoptive, childless, legal guardians, and foster families. A nuclear family consists of a mother, father, and their biological children. For the parents, having another adult around can be beneficial in many ways. For the children in a nuclear family, having both parents in the household can result in more support and being able to spend more time with their parents. A single parent family is one in which children are being raised by one parent. Being a single parent can be very rewarding and challenging. One parent must juggle the responsibilities such as providing the income and taking care of all the household tasks. Blended families consist of a husband, wife, and children from previous marriages. Adjustments need to be made by both adults and children. With an extra effort, blended families can work with a lot of practice and understanding. An extended family is a household that is made up of parents, children, and other relatives all living together. There are advantages and disadvantages of having other family members in your household. Let's take a minute to think about some of the advantages and disadvantages. I would think that advantages would include having more people present, being more hands to help with different chores around the house, possibly more income. Some disadvantages would be less privacy, crowding, having to share so much with others. The bottom line is you will have to work together to have an extended family be a successful situation. Adoptive families are comprised of parents and their adoptive children. The adopted child usually takes the family's last name and is legally protected as a birth child. Each year, approximately 120,000 children are adopted. Some couples choose not to have children. These are called childless families. Their reason for choosing not to have children are a personal choice. They may want to focus on careers and feel like they do not have the time it would take to devote to a child. Money could be another factor in deciding not to have children. They may look to other interests, such as or family members or communities, to fulfill their lives. Usually they treat their pets like their kids. A legal guardian has the financial and legal responsibilities for the child. A court may appoint a guardian when the child's parents are neglecting, refusing, or unable to carry out parental duties, and when it is not in the child's best interest for a petition to terminate parental rights is to be filed. For custody to be granted to someone other than the biological parents, the parents must be unfit or unable to carry out parental duties, or there must be compelling reasons, including abandonment or persistent neglect, for awarding custody to a third party. Children may be placed in a foster home waiting for an adoption to take place. If there is turmoil in the family, children may be placed in a foster home until the problems are solved. Foster parents are required to be screened by social workers and are often trained. They receive a small amount of money from the state to help pay for the child's expenses. Foster parents must be licensed through the state. Being a foster parent can be rewarding, but also can be very challenging. 6.3 children per 1,000 live in out-of-home foster care. Before we look at the functions of individuals within a family, let's talk about how unique families are. There's usually an atmosphere within a family. So what is your family vibe? Is it relaxed and organized, casual and friendly, formal and distant, loud, like my Italian family, or quiet? Is it affectionate or not? Everyone in a family has an important role to fulfill. What are the resources that a family provide? Well, food, shelter, clothing. Sometimes families struggle with basic needs, but they try and meet them. You have protection, health care, there's rules. Who provides these resources? Usually the adults in the relationship, in the family, going to work and supporting the family. What happens to families when these resources are no longer provided? Usually, that would be a breakdown within a family. It may become dysfunctional, but there are resources out there that we learned about that could aid in, there's different groups, charity groups, food banks, community support, and we talked about that the other day. What is nurturing? All right, let's look at what is nurturing. Well, the definition of nurturing is to care for and encourage the development and growth. Why is nurturing so important to a happy, productive family life? Because in order to be stable and happy and feel protected, families have to make sure that they're nurturing, their children and their family members, and they're providing a good environment for that family to grow. How can family members be supportive to each other? Gosh, it could be simple things like helping each other out, sharing the burden of the tasks, being there for each other, making sure there's trust and loyalty and, providing and helping each other out. There are 4 types of development within a family structure. You have emotional, you have physical, you have social and intellectual development. Okay, so, families are responsible for teaching these types of life skills to, their family members. So sometimes that can be challenging, but for the most part, if you have a good grasp on these types of development skills, families will definitely show success. The management of a family's day-to-day responsibilities involve many roles, and we'll get into roles a little deeper in our next unit. It includes leadership, decision-making, handling family finances, and maintaining appropriate roles with respect to extended family, friends, and neighbors. Every culture has its own unique function within the family structure. Usually basic or universal functions include the essential and common in all cultures and society. They can be further classified as 2 different types. So you have biological functions, where every culture has its own unique function within a family structure. Basic and universal functions include those functions that are essential and common in all cultures and societies. They can be further classified into 2 types. You have biological functions, which is intimate relationships where you're having children and nurturing those children. You have psychological functions where you're feeling secure within your family unit, which is also known as psychological security. And that is important in a family structure. Then you can look at affection. Affection is another psychological function. How do we show affection to our family members? That really depends on the family. Some families are huggy kissy, and other families are, very reserved and they don't show and express a lot of emotion. You should think about how psychological functions, if they're withheld from children, infant age children in their growing years, maybe even teenagers, how does that shape, a person as they mature and get older? Then you have enculturization. This is when one generation passes along traditions and customs that they've learned to the next generation. So what enculturization has been passed on to you? Think about that. Why is that important to families? And can we also learn from different cultures in our community? Let's talk a little bit about different cultures. We live in America, which is considered to be the melting pot of many different cultures. So cultures can include several things. How about the way people live? Culture influences role expectations. You could have different child-rearing practices in different cultures. Attitudes about time and money are different in cultures. You also have definitions of achievement that are different. Some people in different cultures view certain achievements, to be bigger and better than others. They also have different conceptions of what is beautiful, different types of music and food, and a host of variety of different things. That's what makes us all different. Nonetheless, culture is only one element of who a person is and how it influences their family dynamic. So with everything that we've talked about, there are certain things, trends that are going on in the world that kind of influence individuals and families. You have societal trends. You have demographic, how things change within demographics. You have an economic. There's trends in economic, and a bunch of others as well. So let's make some predictions. What will future families look like? Where will they live? Where will they work? How will families affect the job market? Will technology in the digital age affect the economic trends of individuals and their families? What about social media? Will it have an effect on an individual and a family? It does. We know that. So think about all those things. The world is a, huge evolving place, and all these little things can change and shape the way families are developing. Okay, make sure that you complete your notes. There is 4 questions to answer down on the bottom left corner. Make sure that you upload them to Schoology. And then you have an infograph to look at and an assignment to complete. So that will wrap up this week when you're finished with that. And then next week, we will finish off the Family Foundation unit and have an assessment next week.